Whew. Happy Wednesday, y'all. Well, I was waiting for some people to join, but I just want to say this real quick because I know I don't go all live over here often. So, um, for the for those of you who are seeing this eventually, if you're following my page, thank you. Um, I'm Zoha. I'm a yoga teacher, a Reiki healer, a wellness advocate, and I do a lot of work with women around healing. When I began doing this work, I started with teens, young adults or teens, people from ages 13 to 25, and then I started exploring more work with women. But I wanted to hop on today and talk about um, coming from an environment where trauma was pretty regular, and then finding out how to create an environment where trauma is not a conversation, right? Like if I'm having a traumatic experience, it's definitely me reliving the past, delving into the past, and going from there. It's not something that I've created now in my now experience of myself and in the relationships that I now have. And it's such a huge difference because for a long time, I didn't know the difference for a long time, because growing up in a traumatic space will have you thinking that experiencing trauma is normal, that having people around you who degrade you in words and physically harm you and mentally abuse you is a part of life. And while it was a part of that, my childhood experience, it is not a part of life. And moving in a space where it's not your norm to a healthier space with relationships with others and yourself is such a, huge jump. And I don't think we talk about how invested you have to be in transitioning from the one space to the other in order to thrive and to feel well a lot as much as we should, especially as, a black woman or whatever, or a black person living in America. I think that we have normalized trauma so much that that conversation is large. We talk about trauma a lot. We talk about traumatic things a lot. We talk about the things that happen to us that cause us to have issues that are difficult, but we don't talk about the healing and the transitioning of those spaces as much as I think we should. And I that's really why I haven't hopped on as much, is because I don't really want to talk about the stuff that happened anymore. I've explored all of those things as much as I can. It was a shitty experience. It was shitty to be raised in homes where people didn't care about my physical, mental, spiritual, emotional well-being, where I was physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually harmed. But being able to create this space, and I don't want to say because but negates, and learning how to create the space where that isn't your reality anymore, and that isn't your children's reality, and that isn't your husband's reality, and that isn't your friend's reality, because you have stopped that cycle. You have stood in the way of that cycle repeating itself by literally saying, I literally said to God or the universe or whoever you believe in, my higher self, when I was in my late 20s, I said, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be in pain like this anymore, because I was in a lot of pain. And because I was in a lot of pain, because of the things that happened to me as a kid and as a teenager, I did not have parents, I did not have caregivers who taught me how to change that story. So I had to learn on my own. And in my 20s, I was doing a lot of trial and error learning with other people and attracting people who had similar stories that I had. And so we were playing those stories out on each other, trying to figure our way through it. And that was, what it was. Um, but it's so important to me that we start talking about how to create collective wellness for ourselves and for our children. As I'm doing all this work for myself and for my children, I think about the fact that my children have to interact with the rest of the world who largely doesn't have this conversation, who largely thinks and believes that this is just the way life is. And I remember being in that thought process when I was in my 20s thinking, oh, this is just how life is. People hurt you, people harm you, bad things happen. And that conversation was so large and so looming and so realistic for me. It became the pattern of my life. And if you don't know what you speak, what you think, what you believe is your reality. So if you believe that you deserve bad things happen or that bad things happen to you, then that's all you'll be able to create. Hey, Jay. I see you there. I'm back. That's all you'll be able to create, right? And so in my late 20s, I found some people who were wanting to create a different type of life, who believed that life was a different type of life was possible. Even though they had had some similar experiences to the experiences that I had had, they believed that those experiences didn't have to dictate our now experience. And so I was blessed when I asked God, the universe, whoever, for that. And when I prayed that prayer that I don't want to do this anymore, I want the life that I deserve. I don't think I deserve this horrible, bad feeling life. I want the one that is you have for me, the good life, the one where I feel good, the one where I have good relationships, the one where I have people who love me and that I love. And those people showed up in the form of friends and helped me learn how to create safe spaces for myself through friendship. And I learned how to mirror those friendships with myself and then learn how to mirror those friendships in relationships and intimate relationships. Awesome, Jay. I hope you well. I'm in the sunlight. It's so bright out here. Oh my God. Um, but yeah, they're just learning how to take the things that work and discard the things that don't work, right? A lot of times we are, the negative things are stand out so much more to us because we've had so many negative experiences and we don't know how to hold on to the good. We don't know how to latch on to it really good, right? But I just want to encourage you, when good things are happening to you, when things are going your way, when everything, all the ducks are lined up in a row and you're getting all the things that you asked for, do your best to hold on to it. Hold on to it. Hold on to it. Hold on to that energy. Hold on to the thought. Hold on to what it looks like. Because yes, life is multifaceted and you will not always have good times. But if you hold on to those good times, if you hold on to those well moments, then you could use that energy to get you through the difficult times. And you also can use that energy to create a new belief system that this is where I felt good and this is where I belong. I belong here. Yes, these other things are happening that are not feel so good, that are not so a part of my elevation story. But just think of it like when you're like if you're taking a shower, right, and you are washing up, you're cleaning off all the dirt from the day and everything. In order to get clean, you got to rinse off, right? So some of that stuff, even some of the good stuff, is going to go down the drain. But you hold on to the fact that now I'm clean and I can, start my day and go on with my day. I just like to think of it as like you're not, even when things are not going your way, you're not being showered with that stuff. That's just a part of it, right? It's in the mix of life, Those things are a part of the experience, but they are not my experience. We have all these things happening now. Police shootings, they've always been happening. They've never stopped happening. Genocides all over the world. Groceries are insane. The only thing that's right now is gas prices ain't insane. They're insane, but they're not insane like they could be. But when you're thinking about all that stuff, you pulling all that stuff in as information, right? And then you're using it each and every day. And it's creating the story that you live in. It's creating the world that you live in. It's creating your worldview. And that is how we keep maintaining these old stories where we aren't well, where we aren't loved, where we aren't cared for, where we don't have everything we need, where we're constantly struggling. And it's also really about taking ownership and responsibility. That's a huge thing as well. It's like, how do I contribute to the state of the unwellness of my life, right? Am I doing too much? Am I putting myself in some places that I don't need to be in? You know, I think that pulling back from certain experiences, certain people, certain places definitely helped me change the dynamic of the experiences that I have. I ain't gonna say think, I know that for real. And so when I'm around someone and their overall thing is not promoting wellness, and I say I want to be well, I say I want the best life possible, and that doesn't show up in that space, right? Say it shows up that this person is still attached to their negativity, they're still attached to being harmful to others, and this could look any kind of way, right? They could just get upset over every little thing or gossip about people, anything. That's out of alignment with what I say I want for myself. It's out of alignment, so I remove myself from those spaces. And before, I thought, when I was younger, I thought you could maintain those spaces and still be yourself. It's hella impossible to maintain spaces that are wells for negative energy and also have the positive experiences that you desire, right? It's like, I always tell my husband, look at the 5 people around you who are closest to you and what they're doing. That's how you are in the world. So the 5 people who are closest to you, speak to every day or every other day, however you speak to people, and you interact with, are negative. They are angry. They're delusional. They're not actionable in any way. Then that's a high chance that you also participate in those types of behaviors, and those behaviors don't align with wellness. They don't align with having the best life possible, right? So when I look at the people around me, I'm always looking at how I will allow people to show up in my space. And that's feedback. It's not about judgment or anything. It's feedback for how I may show up in other people's spaces and how I may move through the world. And sometimes I find great experiences of people around me. And sometimes I find not so great experiences of people around me. It's up to me to figure out where I am on the spectrum of what they're showing me, what they're mirroring to me, right? So if they're negative and they talk bad about people and themselves, where am I on that spectrum? Am I same where they are? Or do I not gossip, but I still have a thought process that says negative things in my head towards people, right? You know what I mean? I don't have to do the exact same thing in order to be mirroring the energy, right? I just have to be living in that energy in some way. And then I just work on that. I work on that for me. I say, okay, so I see this thing is off. And I'm going to work on how I talk about people in my head, because I don't say everything. Sometimes I see people, I think what I think, and I go on about my business. But then it shows up loudly, like someone out, or one of my friends or one of my acquaintances or one of my family members is loudly saying these things that I don't say out loud. So I know that I have work to do. And that doesn't mean that me and that person won't be as close or friends or whatever anymore. But once you start changing your behavior in a certain kind of a way, either that person is going to change their behavior too, because they are a true reflection of you, or they're going to distance themselves. That's a big ass mosquito. In the daytime, they're going to distance themselves because they're not going to feel as comfortable maintaining a behavior that they had, because you're not creating a space for them to do that. Creating spaces for people to be more positive. And sometimes it depends on the person. If it's my husband or my best friends, I say to them, hey, let's not engage in that type of behavior, because I have that type of relationship with them. I can say exactly what I feel in the moment. And whether it's taken well or not, that's something we have to talk through. But I can say it. There are some people you can't say that. You can't say what you feel, because they're not there yet. They're not in a space to hear you. It'll feel like an attack. And you have to be clear about who those people are. And know that you were once one of those people. The truth used to feel like an attack to me at one point, I'm out here walking up this hill. I try to walk 10,000 to 20,000 steps a day. I know that's a big spread, but 10,000 is the least I do, and 20,000 is the most I try to get to. Because your girl is going through some woman issues with becoming perimenopausal, and my body just wasn't reacting to life and food the way that it was at one point. So I had to make a change, right? That was a change. I saw that and I said, let me make a change for myself. Okay, so that's an example of what I just shared about energy change, right? With perimenopause, I started gaining all this weight. I couldn't get rid of it. I was not used to that in my former life. Usually I could eat what I want as long as I did yoga and stayed active, pretty active. The weight wouldn't come on, but that's not where I am anymore. The energy has changed. My energy shifted. And so I had to make note of that energy shift and counter it to get the results, the positive results that I desired. And that's all I'm talking about. It's the same thing. You make note of the energy shifts in your life, that they're positive or negative. If they're negative, you think about what positive energy will counteract that energy. And then you make that shift into that positive energy. And you will reap the benefits of that. But if you notice the pattern is negative and you do nothing and you allow the pattern to continue, of course, you will continue to reap negative results, right? So that's all we're ever doing. All we're ever doing is looking at our patterns. When I say looking at the people around you, that's just patterns. If you look at the people around you, they're just your patterns. They're how you walk, talk, move through the world, listen, how you love, how you learn, how you treat people, whether you're appreciative or not, whether you move through the world in a way that thinks like people owe you something, or with entitlement, whether you move through the world in a way like a victim, like bad things are happening to you, or that people are just evil and they're always harming you. That's a victim mentality. And even if it's quote unquote true, because that's your experience, even though it could be quote unquote true because that's your experience, you dictate that. You are what the energy is responding to. So the exact moment you decide that that energy no longer belongs in your space and you do something, whew, did it stop? I think, okay, my phone rang. So the moment that you notice that that energy is there or the pattern is there and you do something to counteract that energy with a behavioral change, a belief change, then that energy can no longer interact with you in the same way, even if it continues to show up. So even if negativity in a way, say you decide you're not going to gossip about people anymore, and even if people still show up around you gossiping and you don't entertain it, that energy will not have as much of an effect on you as it once did, right? So it's really all about paying attention to everything that is happening around you and making note of it and how to address it and staying true to your new course. I'm glad you're enjoying yoga. Yoga saved my life. I don't say that lightly. Even with the friend group that I found and learning how to love myself, I still function under a very huge amount of anxiety because I was diagnosed with CPTSD as a teenager because of the traumatic experiences that I had throughout my childhood. My anxiety was so bad. My anxiety was so bad that if I went into crowded spaces, I would hear voices that were not in spaces. And I was not diagnosed with bipolar or what do you call that, schizophrenia or anything like that. I didn't have that. Just my anxiety was so bad that my inner voice could tap into energy beyond the spaces that we were in. So I definitely believe yoga saved my life because when you have that type of interference going on, it's hard to believe your reality. It's hard to believe people standing in front of you because even as people were talking to me, it's like I could kind of hear their inner thoughts. It's so weird. Like I don't ever really talk about that, but like I could kind of hear their inner thoughts. Like they're saying one thing out their mouth, but their mind was saying a whole nother thing. And that shit was so hard, yo. It was so hard to interact with people because I used to feel like I was the only person on earth. I know I wasn't. And I know I'm not, Jay. That had those type of experiences until I started talking about them out loud to other people. And they were like, oh yeah, that happens to me too. I could not be around most people because most people mask so deeply. They don't even know they're masking. They have been taught to appear one way in the world, but to really operate another way. And I could always see the mask and I could hear behind the mask. I could hear the thoughts they had behind the mask. I could hear their motives behind the mask. And that shit, it's unsettling in a way. And it's so hard because even my kids now, they're going through this preteen, teenage phase. And that is a really interesting phase for most of us in life. And they are avid I can call them liars. They're storytellers. They storytellers. My kids like to make big, and they don't make little stories. They make gigantic, colossal stories about stuff. And, being a parent and having the ability to see beyond, this is not just, like a parent knowing their kid thing. And trying to help them develop that skill because it is a skill. It's storytelling. They are writers. They are visionaries. They are creatives. And the old school way would to be to beat that out of them or to shame it out of them or to judge that out of them. I'm trying to learn how to cultivate that space in such a way that they get that I know that they have an affection for the imaginary. But how to put that energy into use in this world. People love stories. I don't want you to stop telling stories, but I want you to stop telling stories that don't help you, that are not going to help you in the long run. Because people who tell lies are not trustworthy. And because they're in that teenage phase where, it takes 2 million times of hearing something before it sinks in. Or it takes 2 million times of hearing something plus experience. Like, I don't know what their story is. I don't know if they need life experience. Plus a supportive parent. And we'll see what that looks like, you know what I mean? But it takes time in that age. When you're in that 12 to 17 age, it's all about experiential life. It's all about your experiences. They are testing their theories. They're testing their experiences. So me saying it, it's not, anything. They're like, oh, moms just don't want us to, like that, And I get it because I used to be a teenager and I remember my mind at that time. I'm not, what do you call that? Forgetful in that way. Like a lot of us are as we get older, we forget that we were kids at one point. Yes. And they're otherwise good kids. They don't do nothing. They're in the house. They do everything else I tell them to do. It's just I'm very confrontational as a parent. I'm very direct. I'm not standoffish or anything like that. I'm very confrontational and direct as a person. So when I ask them to do something and they don't do it, I don't say it like in a passive aggressive way, oh, why you ain't do such and such. No, I'm very direct. I come say, hey, I told you to do X, Y, Z. I expected X, Y, Z to be done by this time. I gave you the instructions. Why is it not done? I need, a reason why you can follow a directive. And then they come to me with, oh, such and such happened and da-da-da-da, and it's like all downhill from there. And, I don't accept that because that's not how life is. You can't imagine your way out of responsibility. So we have to have a conversation about it and what I expect in the future when I ask for something. And of course, this happens over and over and over again in different circumstances. They might get it in one circumstance, say if it's about the dishes. They might get it about the dishes and rinse the dishes and put them in the dishwasher and do that right. But then their room, gonna take the least way to get it done. If I tell them to make their bed and clean up their room, they're gonna throw everything under the bed and put stuff under their sheets and pull the big cover up. And then I go in, pull the cover back, pull out everything from the bed, and it's like, oh, I don't know how I got there. And it's just like, let's not play these games. Let's do what I asked you to do. And we'll do this 100 times if we have to, because I got time. I have time. I'm your parent. I'll be your parent for the rest of your life. I will be here until I die. And I will be supporting you in the way that I know how until I leave this earth. I am never going to stop being your parent. Ever. And so let's not even get into this Western ideological way of thinking where when you turn 18 or you turn 21, you don't have to listen to me no more and you got to get out my house and all that weird shit. No, 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 no. We're in this together for the long haul, for the rest of my life. I'm your parent. I chose to bring you here. You're my responsibility. And so getting them to understand that I will always be right here. I will always be figuring out a way to support them in their lives and to help them make the best decisions for their lives. And sometimes that's going to come with a lesson. And I'm not going to be afraid to be the person to help them learn the lesson, as long as it's not bullying, passive aggressive. When I say bullying, screaming at, talking down to, I don't believe in that. People do what they want in their home. I will not be screaming at my kids and talking down to them, because I don't want them to think that that's what people who love you do, because it's not. That is not behavior that people who love you do. Passive aggressive stuff like shaming, guilting, won't be doing that, because that's not realistically how people learn. Some people may learn that way, but then again, they revert to that masking thing that I was talking about, that I had to deal with from other adults as a young adult, because people have been taught to mask by their parents for most of their lives to get by, or their teachers. Like, they really didn't have the personality that they had. They had to fake that personality to survive. And then you get in a relationship with them and you're looking at them standing in front of you trying to maintain this fake personality, and you know what you're looking at. You know what I mean? And you want what you're looking at to show up in the space, so you can say, do I want to deal with this or not? Is this something I want to participate in? And most people don't have the ability to do that, because this society rewards masking. It rewards telling the truth as long as it fits in with the larger narrative. And I don't want people faking them who they have to be around me, because when they get tired, and they will, I'm me, and whatever we have built together are going to be the casualty of that. We'll be the casualty of their inability to maintain the facade. So, working hard to teach my kids that, yes, I know that school teaches you to do that. I know that your other friends do that. But we don't do that. We don't do that. It's not healthy in the long run. But that's it, y'all. Hope this was helpful for you, Jay, of course, and anyone who wants to continue to work on creating positive experiences that support the life that they desire. And I know it's kind of hard to, when you're thinking about all the stuff that's going on in the world, to think about that, but you have to, because the world is the world. The world is going to keep worlding. It's going to keep doing its thing. My grandmother used to say, as long as babies being born, the world going to keep going. And I used to be thinking, why that lady be saying that weird stuff? But every day I see somebody pregnant. And no baby, we ain't had no mass halt of babies coming into this realm. So the world is the world. You can't let the world be your focus. It's going to keep doing what it does. You need to be your focus. How you want to experience life needs to be your focus. What you want from life needs to be your focus. Anything outside of that, nope. And anybody who is in your life who is not supportive of that, absolutely not. Everybody needs to be on the team of me, because I'm on their team. And if I'm not on your team and you're not on my team, we not together. We're not playing this game together. That's all I got to say about that. Whew, I'm going to finish this walk. I got about 2 more miles to go. And I hope y'all have a good rest of the week. I keep saying I'm going to try to get on here more often. I'm not going to say that this time. We'll see what happens, y'all. Take care of yourselves. Take care of yourself, Jay. Talk to y'all later.